Matt, let's talk a little bit about your. You tell me about this. I guess that sometimes the flock gets lost.
So this one is kind of interesting. So it turns out that Google, through the Google Apps platform, allowed people to, and allows people to register for domains for the sites they're putting together, which is, it's a good plan. They're using eNom for their registration, but Cisco's Talos team reported that as of, I want to say, 2013, at some point, the Whois protection service ceased to function properly. Now, for those who aren't familiar with, Whois protection, basically when you sign up for a domain name, you've got to give contact information, say this is my name, this is my address, my phone number, and my email address, in case you need to contact me for abuse purposes or whatever. And for a long time, when you would sign up, this would be available to anybody. And it turned out that spammers would start to, dig through these records and grab your email address, grab your phone number, and start using it for whatever purposes they had. So someone came up with the bright idea of Whois protections or Whois privacy services, which means you don't actually put that information out in the public. They give sort of like an intermediary step, so you have to still contact the company and say, I have a legitimate use for this information, please give it to me. I have an abuse case to work on.
Something more than CAPTCHA.
It's an extra step that prevents automation. So in a way, you could say that. But what it turns out is that at some point in the process for Google Apps, the renewal process was not re-upping that protection service, which you would expect it to happen if I said I wanted to sign up for this and I wanted it to last for 3 years. Every year it would go through and check and say, okay, they wanted it, they get it again. Their Whois is still protected. At some point that failed. Now what this means is that people's contact information related to these domains was out in the public. There's an upside, there's mostly a downside. There's a small upside, which I'll get to. The downside is that now you've got this information, and while Google has fixed the problem, anybody who was watching during that period and trying to scrape for this information would have a copy of it historically. So it's out there, and it's not gonna be, you can't put the cat back in the bag. So plenty of people's contact information has been leaked. And there's all sorts of, depending on what you were doing with your website, there's all sorts of reasons why this is a terrible, terrible thing. For most people, some people don't even care, some people don't sign up for these services, but for some people it's very important that identity be protected. The very small silver lining in this cloud is that these same services are often used to protect criminal activities.
That's right.
So for people who are out there in the realm of analysis of criminal activities and spam and botnets, this is actually an analysis boon.
we use, at Damballa, we use Whois data as one of the many ingredients in our analysis trying to find bots and bad actors, but you're right.
Yep. And we've used the same information as well. It is very useful for that purpose.
That's right.
So, I mean, it's kind of the big story of the week that this information is now out there in the public. It's been fixed, but for this long period of time, it was sort of a problem.
Okay, well, this is the consequences of leaks.
Yeah, this is basically a leak. Yeah.
But it's by the same token, I know we've run into a lot of cases where that privacy is a little bit of a hindrance in being able to get information that you need about investigating malicious activity. So hopefully that won't happen again, and hopefully some folks have learned some lessons. So.